on the Dana 44, is there a maximum ring and pinion tooth count you should go with? Can you go too high, numerically high, and now you don't have enough contact where you're going to start seeing breakage?
So it's a common misconception that the higher the numerically, like deeper the ratio, the weaker the pinion gets.
Right.
And that it's a misconception. It's not necessarily true. When we start worrying about the ratio versus pinion diameter, it goes down to the root diameter of the pinion shaft, not necessarily the size of the pinion head.
Adventure doesn't wait for a cracked windshield. Windshield defense by Racing Optics is like a screen protector for your phone. Triple layer, race tested, and installs in just 20 minutes. Save 20% with code JTS20 at windshieldefense.com. The clear choice. All right, it is 8 p.m. and time to start the show. So glad you guys could make it tonight. So we'll just get this show on the road. Hi, I am Tony, and this is the Jeep Talk Show Roundtable episode. Hello, Zoom people.
Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Uh-oh, Rick has broken something again.
Oh, upgrades.
Hey, be part of our weekly Zoom meeting, jeeptalkshow.com/contact to find out how to join. All right, so following along with Janet's recent interview with Greg of Platinum Drivetrain Works, regearing your Jeep is going to be the subject for tonight. So Greg is actually with us tonight. Greg from Platinum Drivetrain Works. We really appreciate you joining with us, and maybe you can defend your honor, because I'm sure everybody here has various opinions about regearing. So let's start off with a real easy one. And Rick, I think you've done regearing on your TJ. Why regear? Remember, we're talking to some newbies out there, and they hear about this stuff. They may even looked into the price and go, "Holy shit, I don't want to do that. That's expensive." Why would you go to the trouble and expense, or did you regear your own?
That's to me,
Rick.
No, I haven't re-geared yet. Just those Rubicon axles I put in here, 410s, because I'm still on 35s, which works out good because I still drive mine on the highway a lot. But when I go up to 37, 38s, I'm probably going to go to 488, and that just has to do with one. It helps better with. I like to have a little bit lower gear when I'm wheeling. But not so tall that I like when I'm on a highway that I'm running 3,500 RPM trying to do 65 mile an hour. Right now at 75 in this, I'm doing between 25 and 28. And I figure to be maybe right around in there when I put 48s with the 38. I'm thinking I'm going to go 38s with this. I need
to go with bigger tires on the XJ. That's my problem is I'm doing 70 on the highway on the XJ, and good Lord, what is it? It is close. Well, it's about like what you're doing. It's close to 3,000 RPM.
But the sweet spot for my TJ is right around 71, 72 mile an hour. It just purrs right down the road, and I'm right at about 2,400 RPM, and it's happy. But when I get up around 28. It'll do it for a while, and it doesn't complain that much, but I can tell it's not liking it as much.
Does it start heating up? My XJ starts heating up. The 4.0 starts heating up.
No, it doesn't heat up, but I go from my highly efficient, economical 12 miles a gallon.
I see what you're saying.
Down to 10 miles a gallon.
Yeah.
Well, isn't technically just putting bigger tires on, you're technically changing the gearing of the machine just by putting a bigger tire on. So when you say re-gearing, you're more or less just trying to get it back to what it was, right? Kind of.
Well, I mean, it really depends. And actually, I think Greg and Janet spoke about this in the Chick Chat interview, where you have to determine what your goal with your Jeep is. Is it a highway Jeep? I say if it's a highway Jeep, buy a Bronco. If it's an off-road Jeep, then you want to do a good all-around gear for on and off-road. And then there's the people that don't give a shit, and they're taking it off-road, and they put whatever gives them the best crawl ratio.
If I was just strictly off-road, I'd just go straight to 538s, and that way I can put whatever size tire I want on here. But with driving it on the highway as much, you drive it 20 hours to Utah, you need to get a little better.
See, therein lies the trade-off, though, Rick, because if you go too deep, even if you have the tire and the power to support it, depending upon the terrain that you're wheeling, even if it's a trailer queen, it's straight up, it never sees the highway. So you go for maximum crawl ratio, too much of a good thing can hurt you. So if you end up north of 125, 135 to 1 on crawl ratio, but you spend all your time in Moab or places like closer to me, like out in Mason, where we've got K2 and Wolf Caves, where it's just low and slow technical crawling the whole time, Sand Hollow, whatever. That works out great. But anytime you venture away from that type of wheeling and you get into something where it is a necessity for some tire spin or some bump, a manual transmission is your best friend if you're stuck with a single speed transfer case. Automatic equipped rigs, not so much, because they're going to, even with the later model ones where you can effectively, put it down in first or second and keep it there, it's still not the same as like when one of our Jeeps with a 6-speed with the manual transmission or 5-speed manual. First gear for crawling, and if I need to bump up something that's pretty steep, I need some momentum, I want tire spin, mud, sand, snow, whatever, I can grab second or third gear while still in 4 low, because Rubicon case 4-to-1, and get the tire spin I want. So you have to, that's what he was touching on a moment ago. It's the first thing I ask people when they ask me, they call up shop, hey, I want this, this, and this. What ratio should I run? What are you going to do with it 99% of the time? That's the key. What are you going to do with it 99% of the time versus your expectation? Everybody watches the TikTok videos and the Instagram reels, and they see all the influencers out there doing big badass stuff, and they go, ooh, I want that, I want that. And it sounds cool until you've actually got it, and then you have to deal with all the extra maintenance and the extra cost and stuff that goes with it, and then you realize, well, maybe I shouldn't have gone so full tilt boogie and kept it more realistic if it's not a trailer queen. If you're driving the thing on a daily, the compromises have to be made. There's really, like,
we have a saying here, Greg, no modification goes unpunished. And that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yep. There's a caveat to everything, give and take. So mine's an extreme example. I'm as close to being off-road use only, quote unquote, as you can get one and still drive it every day. But it is nowhere near what I would consider practical for your average Jeep owner. It's way past that point. So, like Janet and I talked about, I'll be lucky to get 30,000 miles out of my tires before they're ready to be replaced, not counting the damage I do to them off-road.
Right.
So all of that stuff adds up in a hurry.
Well, Travis, let's ask you, why would you want to re-gear your Jeep, and have you re-geared yours yet?
He's muted.
Probably watching a game or something. Is there a game on?
I like this version of Travis. Can we keep him?
No.
How about you, Roger?
Talking.
How about you, Roger?
What's that? What was the question?
Why re-gear?
Well,
I was muted. Hold on, Roger.
Yep.
Stop. So I'm not watching the game. I'm sitting outside with my dog, letting him still run around. 488s are what I initially want to go to, but right now with my 37s, the daily driver it is. Like, I'm going to beat mine up off road. I'm local off road. I'm not traveling, far distance. I'm not coming to see you guys in Texas or Arkansas, wherever you're going for the Jeep event. I think 488s would be set for me and good. Right now, the 410s with the Taser, doing the manual re-gear to where the timing is set, I've had zero issues. 48 will get me to 8 more often than not in the 4XE. So I just forgot your name. I'm in the 4XE, Greg. So I've got a 4XE, and the Taser, it'll reset my gears, or not gears, but it resets the timing, which has been pretty good so far for me to still get mileage and my daily commute. I'm 64 miles round trip to work and back, and I've got to get I don't care about gas mileage. I didn't buy a Jeep for gas mileage. I bought a 4XE because I couldn't afford the 392, and this damn thing is torquey and good off road. People beat it up, but I'm like, nah, it's the son of a bitch is a beast off road.
Travis, that's a lot of miles to be driving back and forth to work. Do you listen to a podcast? I mean, you might want to subscribe to one.
Yeah, I've debated. I've debated subscribing.
I know of a Patreon that you could subscribe to.
I was subscribed for 2 years. $100 a pop.
I just wanted to get in there before everybody else did.
Rat bastard.
Yeah.
I just wanted to start it.
On my Jeep, hey, there are rats still.
Cool.
On my Jeep. I don't know if you can see these guys. I got no ducks, but I got some rats up top.
That would have been funny if it had really taken off. Hey, Glenn, I don't know if you've gone the re-gearing route, but why do you think you should re-gear, or should you?
Yes, I have re-geared. So originally my Jeep came with 373s, and it was on 31s, and I bent my upper control arms on a local trail. So I upgraded to the metal cloak and threw 35s on there, and it was a pig. It did not want to accelerate. It was just horrible to drive. So when I finally went around to it, I did a lot of research, and everybody was saying a 6-speed needs to be 488s. I went and actually looked at where our torque band is on the Jeep motors, the 4-liter. And I said, okay, where does it max out in the torque? And I wanted to leave me some room for torque for accelerating in 6th gear, because I have a 6-speed. So I decided to go with the 456s. So I turn about 2,600 RPMs at 70. And when I hit the accelerator, it doesn't take off like a bat out of hell, but it still takes off and accelerates. Mm-hmm. And going up over bridges and stuff, I don't have to downshift anymore. But yeah, just to get back your drivability of your vehicle to where it was in the stock configuration, anybody who puts bigger tires on their Jeep needs to re-gear. Mm-hmm. My wife, when we bought her Jeep, I was like, one thing was, she said she didn't want to put any tires on it. And of course, a week after we had it, she wanted to put bigger tires.
Of course.
So I made sure that when we bought hers, it's a 2016 JKU, I said, we're getting the towing package because it came with 373 gears. Because everybody else I knew had 321s, and we're just complaining about the acceleration and stuff like that. So I was like, nope, we're getting 373 towing package in it. And it's a decent driver on 35s. Mm-hmm.
So, Greg, how many people come to you at the Platinum Drive line? I'm getting the name wrong. You correct me.
Drivetrain Works. Platinum Drivetrain Works.
Thank you. Come to you and say, somebody said I need to come talk to you because my Jeep doesn't drive very good since I put these tires on it. And you have to explain all this stuff to them. How many times a day do you have to explain re-gearing to people? Including today being here on the show.
It's constant. It's
kind of confusing.
It doesn't bother me so much because, again, I like to think of it in terms of I'm helping to educate somebody that may or may not know any better.
Do people look at you funny? Do people look at you funny like you're lying to them? Because it is kind of weird.
Not normally, because I mean, every once in a while, of course, it also helps if they see my rig and I can show them a comparison, like This is what I did and why, and then I can show them on theirs, and I start talking about your curb weight and all your add-ons and all the other stuff, and that usually gets their attention enough. There's, like I said, there's occasional sandbagger where they already know what they want, but they just want to hear what my take is going to be versus the other 4 or 5 shops they talk to.
Well, you want to make sure that you're dealing with somebody that knows what the hell they're doing.
Right. And that's what I said on the interview with Jana. It's like, if the gear guy you're talking to doesn't ask you some of the questions that I posed, walk away. Don't just rely on a salesman or a service writer that's just pushing a commission bonus on sales to tell you what you need. Don't rely on the millions of comments you'll see on question posted on Facebook, social media. You're going to get dozens of different answers. Half of them people either don't know or haven't done it, and the rest of them are either just trying to push. Like each one of these gentlemen that has spoke about what works best for them is kind of the key. There is no one size fits all. That doesn't exist. Now, are there generalities? Sure. A late model rig with a V6 and an automatic on 37s, 9 times out of 10 is going to end up with 488s. That's just kind of the common go-to for the JKs and JLs. But motor, transmission, you guys running the 8-speed automatics can get away with a much deeper ratio than, guys with the 4.0 and an automatic, or like my engine with a 3.6 and a 6-speed, or the A580 5-speed automatic, because you've got those extra 2 overdrives. So if I were in any kind of a jet, like my wife's got a 2024 JL, it's 8-speed automatic, but it's the 2.0 turbo. It's all stock. She uses it for delivering mail. It's a right-hand drive. She's a rural route carrier for the post office. So that Jeep's not modified. It will never get modified. It's staying bone stock other than just regular maintenance.
Does she have to back into the drive-thru when she's getting a Frosty or something?
Or she has her daughter sitting up front, or I'm driving and she's sitting in the passenger seat.
There you go.
It took me a while to get used to it. Let me tell you, after, decades of driving left-hand drive vehicles, the first time I crawled in that thing after we got it back, because she ordered it from, from Jeep. We had to custom order it. And it is the strangest damn feeling.
You keep hitting the garbage can
weird.
When you're pulling in the driveway?
Dude, it is so weird because you don't realize it's kind of like if you do like bow hunting or shooting or golf or any of those kind of things on a regular basis. Muscle memory, right? So you glance at a mirror expecting to see one thing and it's completely different. You reach with this hand for, ignition switch, but it's on this side. There's no clutch pedal. There's, the e-brake's on the wrong side, all these little weird things. And so it's like every time I drive it, she has to change everything from where she likes it from where I have to do it. It's not just as simple as pushing a seat back and forth. It's like, oh my God, but you get used to it like anything else. If I had her rig and I was building it from the ground up, yeah, my ratio selection would be a lot different given that motor and transmission combination with the 272-to-1 transfer case than what I did on my rig. I planned ahead years in advance. When I first did the tons, I put 513s in it. Started on 40s, but my wheelbase was too much for 40-inch tires. My breakover angle sucked. Stepped up to 42s, did a whole lot better. Made some other changes along the way, but I knew at some point it was going to see a V8. And I did not want to be one of those guys that was stuck with 538s, or even like with the Danas. I could go down to 617s in these Dana 80s if I wanted to. But I knew that the addition of the V8 alone was going to make enough power that I wouldn't need the extra gear ratio on top of a granny geared transmission and the 4-to-1 transfer case. So I'm plenty good for all around everything I want to do, but focusing on the hardcore crawling aspect of it. So,
yeah. All right, good. Let's jump over to Kevin. I saw Kevin sneak in. He looks like he's muted and got his video off, so I don't know if he's available. We're going to jump to our next question for tonight. And we've kind of already started covering this. What do you re-gear to? And Greg was just saying, and a few other people were saying, it depends. Greg says motor transmission combination. I look at it in simpler terms. I look at it as the which Jeep is it? TJ, the JK or JL. They're all different, but that means different transmissions and motors and stuff. That's like what Greg was saying.
Curb weight.
Yeah.
How many add-ons you have? Are you wheeling by yowerself in a 2-door with the doors and the roof off? Are you wheeling with a family of 4 and a loaded down cooler? And, maybe you're overlanding. You've got rooftop tent. You've got your solar shower up there. You've got all the body armor. You've got big bumpers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's tire size is just the one that most people latch onto because it's the most, recognized.
Right.
Oh, I'm a Jeep. I've got bigger tires. I need deeper gears.
Well, like you said, transmission,
so
automatic or standard. Yep. It makes a big difference. Yep. Yeah.
And which one, because again, if you go back to like the 42 RLE and the TJs, or even the one before it, the little 3-speed that was basically it was a different version of the Torque Flight 999, no overdrive. It was first, second, and then third gear was 1-to-1. That was it. And those things are incredibly difficult to gear. You have to really match your tire size, curb weight, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow.
Uh-oh.
All right, well, let's jump over to Kevin. Kevin, what do you re-gear to? So tell the folks, assume everybody listening to this is new. So what is it that you're driving, and what is it that you're going to re-gear to?
So I have an 05 TJ that I am working on building tons for with an LS swap, and I'm going 538s. However, I'm the sole off-road only guy. So for me, everyday driving is not even a concern. At most, I might drive it to the grocery store that's 2 miles away, maybe twice a year. So for me, I just want to crawl over bigger stuff.
What do you normally drive day to day?
A Volkswagen station wagon.
Does it bother you switching from a beast to a not a beast?
No, because I'll go from my Volkswagen to my dually I drove the wife's truck to do some stuff yesterday because my dually's a flatbed and she has a bed. So I'm used to going back and forth between different vehicles.
All right. I was
driving. Well, in my previous job, I was driving 150 miles a day. So,
yeah,
that TDI Volkswagen
gives you plenty of time to get used to it.
Yes.
Yeah, to each their own. I just hate being down low. I just love driving a lifted Jeep everywhere I go. All right, go ahead.
I enjoy being up in the Jeep and being able to see over everything like for driving because it's easier to see when you're up high. But to get down in a sporty car low to the ground, it's also a whole lot of fun driving.
Oh yeah, if you can go fast or you can accelerate fast, but in traffic
you can go
sucks.
Oh, I have them all back roads going back and forth to work, so it's
it's curvy, I bet too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I live in a rural area as well, so I don't deal with a whole lot of traffic very often.
Traffic sucks. All right, so let's go over to Mr. Mitten, the Tony that's in the Michigan. Tony, why, in your mind, why do you re-gear, or what do you re-gear to, I should say? You got any plans for your Jeep, of re-gearing your Jeep?
Oh, sorry. I was out messing with the trailer. Yeah, actually, the biggest reason right now I want to re-gear is to pull that camper I got.
Oh, that's right.
It's
nice little camper.
It just fine, but it keeps the RPMs a little higher than I want on the highway. So.
What gear is it in going down the highway?
Oh, it stays in third. But it I don't know. I don't push it too hard. If I'm really easy on it, it'll shift into fourth and just coast. But Michigan's kind of hilly, so it spends a lot of time shifting back and forth if I don't just put it in the auto stick.
I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I kind of like to see the inside of that trailer that you got. Maybe you can post some pictures up on Discord if you haven't already.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. I'd like to have someone like that. I think it'd be a lot of fun to have. Good. Did you guys camp out in it the first night that you got it? Were you in the driveway?
No, we haven't done anything like that. We're going to be going out the end of the month on its maiden voyage. So just getting all the odds and ends.
Have you contacted Chris for some G-tops for the trailer?
Oh, that'd be nice. It's got the like vent roof things, but those G-tops were so nice on the trip.
I bet. I really enjoyed them. I'm really surprised we don't see more of those things out on the trail. I know that Chris posted up a pretty well built off-road rig at EJS this year that with the G-tops on it. And if you guys don't know, we haven't talked about the G-tops in a while. Tony actually won a set of G-tops, which basically the Chris at xjtalk.com takes the Freedom panel, cuts a big ass hole in it, and then sticks this polycarbonate clear tinted see-through thing. So now you have like a sunroof or a moonroof on your Jeep, but you still have the Freedom panels. So you can take those off and go completely topless if you want to. So it actually makes the Freedom panel stronger and gives you the open air feeling, but your heater and your air conditioner still work. And actually in Moab this year, it was kind of important to have a closed roof with all the rain and the snow that was happening sporadically.
Oh yeah. Yeah, sorry about that. It disconnected accidentally.
Oh, I was talking. I didn't even notice. So it worked out perfect.
Oh, excellent.
All right.
Yeah, it was nice.
All right, Garrett. So tell us, what do you re-gear to? And I don't know, did you even get a chance to re-gear your Gladiator? Was that in the works before it got totaled?
No, I was going to eventually, but I never did. But now I have a JK two-door, so I'm not sure. I'll probably do either 488s or 513s. I don't have to drive it very far if I don't want to. Work is literally like 10-minute drive, and I only do like 40 miles an hour the whole way. So, but on my other axles that I'm going to build for another project, I'm probably just going to go straight to 513s or 538s, depending on if I'm keeping my ZJ or not. I might put it in something else. But yeah, that one will be strictly like more trailered to the trails and stuff.
So Greg made it back. Greg, glad you were able to make it back in the Zoom meeting.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. We got plenty of people to talk to here. So I was going to ask you free advice from a guy in the biz. And I know that all Dana 44s aren't the same. At least I don't think so. On the Dana 44, is there a maximum ring and pinion tooth count you should go with? Can you go too high, numerically high, and now you don't have enough contact where you're going to start seeing breakage?
So it's a common misconception that the higher the numerically, like deeper the ratio, the weaker the pinion gets.
Right.
And that it's a misconception. It's not necessarily true. When we start worrying about the ratio versus pinion diameter, it goes down to the root diameter of the pinion shaft, not necessarily the size of the pinion head. Because no matter if it's a 5-cut gear set, no matter what the ratio, you've basically got the same amount of engagement between the ring gear and the pinion teeth. That's the only way to make that any better or stronger is to make it bigger. That's it. So even the biggest Dana 44, which is the M220 Advantech 44 used under the current crop of JLs and JTs, that's basically it. And they did change the design. If you look at like the JK Dana 44, the earlier 44s, you'll notice the difference between the older style versus the Advantech style. In the M210, M220 Advantech Dana 44s, the ring gear teeth are actually longer heel to toe than they are wide root to crown. There's a much broader swath for the pinion gear, because if you haven't had a whole lot of time looking at the gears, a hypoid gear set, you'll notice on the pinion that the shape of the teeth, it's the same coast and drive as far as the profile, but it's got that long twist to it that goes heel to toe, and it covers a lot of distance. It's like a wood screw. As it turns, that part of the tooth is what's pushing against the contact surface on your ring gear and transmitting the torque. So again, the only way to make it better is to make it bigger.
Right.
So
and I figured that's why a lot of people went with the Dana 60s and 80s, is because they needed it bigger so that you wouldn't have the breakage issue. But what I'm hearing you say is there really isn't a pinion ring breakage issue with the Dana 44. So it's a misnomer.
I have a question on breaking. Because
the breakage issue normally comes from people that are trying to put too much through it. Either too much tire, which can cause shock loading in the reverse, or if they do a V8 swap, like all your factory 392s come with a full-time transfer case. So they did that on purpose from the factory to keep you from trying to put everything to the back end all at once. If you swap that out for an aftermarket case, like an Atlas or something, which is hands down stronger than the factory stuff, gear to gear, billet case, gear to gear actuation. Now, again, it's like we talked about with Janet, there has to be somewhere for that power transfer to go, either from engine down to the ground or from shock loading the ground back up, and where it's going to find the weakest spot. And that's where it's going to show itself. So if you take your average Dana 44 and you put a 538 or a 513 in there, yes, the diameter of the pinion head decreases and there's less teeth on it and more teeth on the ring gear. Where you run into trouble again is that if you beef up your axle shafts with chromoly aftermarket or step up to something like that, you put the bigger tires on there. We've increased the overall curb weight of the vehicle with add-ons and armor and all this other stuff. And then you go bouncing and banging on that thing and shock loading it. The weak link becomes the ring and pinion regardless of ratio, because you get what do most people do? Tires, axle shafts, aftermarket drive shafts, bigger U-joints, right?
Yep.
Thicker wall tube, better suspension that's stronger. We basically, by throwing the whole book of upgrades and mods in an axle, trusses, gussets, yada, 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 you name it. The one constant is the ring and pinion. That will not change. And regardless of ratio,
well, that's not a good place to put a fuse.
You're seeing breakage more often with the deeper ones because the torque multiplication is so much higher.
Gotcha.
Right? So if I take a set of 321s on a stock motor, and regardless of tire size, you're not going to really hurt those things because you can't put enough power through them via it's again, high point gear set. We're changing the plane of where the torque is transferring. So we're going from rotational from the drive shaft to an opposite plane where we're rotating a ring gear, thus the tires. So if I strap 538s in a torquey Jeep, something that's got a supercharger, something that's had a V8 swap, even with a small, what I consider a small tire for a 1-ton would be a 40-inch tire. In my book, that's a smaller tire for a full 1-ton build, but it's still a lot of tire. Extra weight, extra rolling circumference, all that stuff plays in effect. So I've seen crate axle. I saw a UD60 just a few months ago that with less than 4,000 miles on it, a set of 40s and a 392 Jeep, he blew up the ring and pinion in the back end trying to do a burnout at an IKEA parking lot. Took 3 teeth off the ring gear. And this is a 9 3/4-inch ring gear. Here we go.
Hey Jeepers, Tony here from the Jeep Talk Show. You know how you protect your phone screen with a protector? Now you can do the same thing for your Jeep, Bronco, Ineos, or G-Wagon. Windshield Defense by Racing Optics is a triple-layered, race-tested solution that installs in under 20 minutes, right at home or with your local installer. Made in the USA and trusted for over 25 years, it keeps your view crystal clear and your windshield safe from rock, debris, or whatever the trail throws your way. Don't let a rock end your ride. Protect your windshield, protect your story, and keep the adventure rolling. And now save 20% with code JTS20 at windshieldefense.com. That's windshieldefense.com, promo code JTS20. Born from racing.
If I'm understanding you correctly on the pinion, you're saying like here where you have let me get more in the camera, where it drops is more of your weak point, correct?
Right. So the root diameter, which is going to be the most, like what they consider the root diameter, is the main diameter of the shaft at its smallest point.
This part here.
So there are, if you scoot over a little bit and show right behind the head of the pinion. So once we get there, so that ratio, I'm going to guess that is what, a 513 or a 538 pinion?
It's a 538.
There we go. So in some of the bigger axles, when you get into these ratios, you can actually get, like if you've ever seen a set of 617s, and I've got some I will get y'all pictures of tomorrow, going in a Dana 70. The head of that pinion is barely the diameter of the main part of the shaft that he's holding in his hand. It gets really small. Then you do have to worry about that becoming the weak point. But the failures that I see on a regular basis from gearing too deeply is because you're just simply asking too much of the assembly. It's not necessarily a ratio issue in and of itself for the physicality of the gears. It's the torque multiplication, and you're asking more than the gears can take. You're exceeding the physical limitation of that gear set. That's what you're doing. And quality of the gears is a key factor. There's brands out there. I'm not going to name names.
I was going to ask you. I was just getting ready to ask you.
Yeah. There's some stuff out there that's just poor quality. It is what it is. And there's stuff out there that's much, much better. Surprisingly, a lot of the OEM stuff is really, really good with quality. The guys that complain about it are the ones that don't maintain their stuff. Any axle that you put 200, 300,000 miles on and never change the gear oil, and you're towing a fifth wheel and you're smoking the tires on Saturday night at the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A, it's not going to last that long because you're just abusing it and not taking care of it.
Yeah.
So
I know this is super common.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Garrett. I was just going to call on you. I didn't want to lose your question.
No, I know this isn't super common, but have you ever worked with the Jana kits?
So Dana, he's got some really cool stuff. I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he has come up with some very unique and awesome ways to fill gaps, if you will, in between, like somebody that wants the packaging of a Dana 44 or Dana 60, but wants the strength of more. And his stuff is really good. Carl has he's really, and he's a lifelong guy, and with what he does, his knowledge and experience is amazing. Some of the stuff that he gets into is a little bit beyond what your average wheeler is going to want to deal with. As far as the technicalities, if you will, it's, if you ask them, well, what's a 609 axle? You guys, anybody hearing this? Anybody on the
a 16 and 9
right.
inch.
So 9-inch center, 60 outers, and so if you say that to somebody and they get that puzzled look on your face like a cow staring at a new gate, I'm not going to bother trying to explain it all to them because they don't know what the difference is. I've had discussions with folks, like you get into the whole Dana 80 versus 14 bolt. Which is better? I'll say it every time. Well, you might as well argue about which is better, 9mm or 45 ACP.
40.
They both have a good use and a good
40,
place.
40 is better.
40, yeah. See, some people are like, the 40 cal's dead; it doesn't belong anymore. But I like 9mm for EDC, and I like the big, fat, slow, heavy bastard for the home defense because I don't want to punch holes in the neighbor's walls.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
40 is just a pussy 10mm.
It's cheaper.
I'll die on that hill.
It's cheaper.
Well, would you die on it with a 9mm or a 40 cal? Because I think a 40 cal would be more likely to take you out.
I can carry more 9 than I can 40, though.
Well, I don't care who you are.
Well, you need more. You need more 9 so you can kill the person.
Shot placement. Shot placement.
22.
Yeah. Well, if you're Hillary. All right, so that's good. All right, this is a great conversation. So what do you re-gear to? Well, it depends. This is why this stuff is so complex. And one of the reasons why we're talking about this stuff is because if you're a Jeeper, and even if you get a Jeep and you go, well, I'm never going to take it off road, I don't need to know all this stuff. And then you see somebody with bigger tires, you go, man, that looks good. And you slap on the bigger tires and maybe some fancy wheels, and you go, oh, damn, now that's the look. That looks great to me. And then you go over an overpass and you go, holy shit, this sucks. What is going on?
I have no more passing gear.
No more passing, or you're in it all the time.
Yep.
So this is one of the reasons why we want to let you guys know. And I know many of you out there that listen do know about this, but you may have some questions about it. And hopefully we're going to cover some of those. And I think one of the critical issues that we all want to know is, how much does it cost? Greg, you're absolutely going to be the person that does this all the time and knows. Is this also, it depends?
Yes. On average, like where I'm at, our shop, you can expect bare minimum that 2,000 to 2,500, depending upon which Jeep it is and which boxes you tick. If you're getting a programmer versus like on a TJ that's a non-Rubicon, we got the little $30 speedometer gear that goes in the tail housing of the transfer case. But if it's a JK or JL, we've got to do a plug and play programmer or some kind of tuner. You guys take care of
the whole thing. You don't just put the gears in there and leave it up to somebody to get the gear or the programmer. You guys do the turnkey. Yep. That's nice.
We ask them if they don't already have it. We can absolutely get it for them and install it and do all that stuff. The programmers, you guys that know about this can attest. Entry level plug and play like a Taser. What is the other one? The Flash Cow. From Super Chips. Any of those?
J Drive or J something or other.
J-Scan. You can run anywhere. The gamut on those is going to, $100-something up to $300 or $400. Then you get into the really high end stuff that have the standalone LCD screens. The tuning options are much, much more vast. You could get into one of those things and spend a couple of grand real fast, depending upon the style and version. So it's like the gear ratio. It's like your tire size. You have to make up your mind going into it. What do I want to be able to accomplish with this? Again, TJ, anything with the gear-driven speedometer cable off the back of the transfer case, it's pretty much a no-brainer. We match up. We pick the number of teeth that are on that particular little plastic gear to go with the tire and gear ratio combination that you're running to correct your speedometer.
Right.
It does nothing else. It does not change your shift points. It doesn't change your fuel economy. It doesn't change any of that stuff. It is literally just a speedometer correction is all those do. But with the aftermarket tuners, you have a whole slew of options that you can get into from mild to wild. So you have to decide what do you want it to do if you know, and how much do you want to spend.
So tell the folks what the name of your business is again and where you're located.
Platinum Drivetrain Works. And we're located in Hutto, Texas.
And is that anywhere close to Dallas?
About 3.5 hours.
Okay,
to
so
Dallas proper.
You said Austin, right? So you're closer to Austin?
Well, we're northeast of Austin by about 30 minutes from Austin proper.
Okay, so the Austin area.
So just east of Round Rock.
Yeah. So how long does it take you guys, and I know it just depends on how much work you got to do, but how long does it take you guys to do a re-gearing on a Jeep? How long would your beloved Jeep be gone while you guys are working on it?
Normally for most 4x4s, we're going to schedule it to have it in the shop for at least 2 days. In my particular situation, as a satellite shop for Platinum Drivetrain Works, which is I'm under the umbrella of Platinum Off-Road, which is the big, custom Jeep shop up there in Rockwall. Mike Etherington owns and operates. I'm by myself. It's just me. It's one lift. I don't have any helpers. I don't have any office staff, none of that stuff.
Well, you don't have to tell anybody to stop slacking off except yourself. So that's perfect.
It's just me.
Yeah, I think we interviewed Mike, and I think he was talking about either having a drivetrain shop coming in on board soon. How long have you been with Mike?
Mike took over January 1st.
Okay, so not very long. Year. Yeah, I think we interviewed him last year.
Yeah, I was independent for the first 2 years under a different name, doing it on my own, but it's a lot for one person to carry. Mm-hmm. And doing that with the hours I was putting in, and I've got little ones at home. I've got the wife; she's working 6 days a week. It was too much, and I had to find some relief somewhere. And I love what I do, and it's a cool job, And I don't just do Jeeps at the drivetrain shop. I work on pretty much all of it, anything up to like a 2.5 ton rig. If it fits on the rack or I can bench build it, we work on it. And we are definitely going to in the next year or so expand the offerings to include drive shaft. Fabrication.
Oh, nice. Balancing, I guess.
Building axle housings, all this. I've got skill set to do all the stuff. I just don't have all the equipment.
Right.
So those are things that we're going to get into in the next year or so to be able to offer to customers. So, truly a one-stop drivetrain shop for that kind of work.
Yeah. How do people contact you? What's the best way to contact you?
You can find us all across social media. We're on Google. If you look up just in your Google search bar or any browser for that, just Platinum Drivetrain Works, and it'll pop up. Email. It's all the stuff we got all our contact stuff on there. I don't have all of it memorized, but phone number for the shop. It's really easy to remember if y'all want to know that. 325-248-4000.
Excellent.
Real simple.
All right. I got two questions for you. I have heard that Mike is a real asshole to work for. Any truth to that rumor?
No, not at all.
I'm just giving Mike a hard time.
No, he can be very demanding at times. When Mike is focused, he's a fucking laser beam. It's, don't mess with him. Don't give him any shit. But he's also been around long enough and been doing this like myself. He's a multi-decade experience level, business owner and all that. He knows what's up. So he can appreciate when somebody knows what they're doing and respects that experience level. But he's also patient enough with other folks that if maybe you're not quite up there, he'll work with you, to a degree. You don't want to like purposely push his buttons because then no, he's. But as far as being like Mike and I have been friends for several years prior to us going, for me going to work for him.
Right.
So I had that benefit already. And no, he really is a nice guy and he's very patient with most of the stuff and very understanding most of the time. So he's got a lot of irons in the fire and stays hella busy. So it's just hard to nail him down sometimes.
So working mechanicking on things to me is really, really easy. But there's two things that I wouldn't touch unless I absolutely had to. And that's an automatic transmission, rebuilding an automatic transmission, and setting up differential gears. Because and in my head, I'm sure I could set up the differential gears. I mean, it's not rocket science, but I think I'd have to do it 3 times. That means 3 gear sets I would go through before it would work. why is it so difficult to set up differential gears?
It really comes down to everything is measured in thousandths of an inch and inch pounds and foot pound, because we have different torque, like your pinion preload versus your backlash versus pinion depth. And it's overwhelming at first because it's expensive to do if you're paying someone to do it, right? Yeah. If you're doing it yourself for the first time, well, there are some specialty tools that will make the job a whole lot easier, but those tools aren't cheap. And it's really hard to justify as a shade tree mechanic that's going to do gears once or twice in your life, maybe, to go out and spend all that money on those tools.
Right.
So if you're paying someone to do it, you're forking out all that cash, you want to make sure that it's somebody that's done it enough to know that it's going to be right. Because if you get it wrong, if you miss it by a few thou, one way or the other, if you miss it by a few inch pounds on like 50 inch pounds of pinion preload will smoke the bearings no matter what. Right. But if you go too little, 10 inch pounds of preload on a pinion bearing, it's going to chatter itself to pieces and do the same thing. So
the tolerances are very, very tight, is what you're saying. And that's the problem.
Understanding when you're looking at it, because I see guys struggle, because there's several Facebook groups that I'm in where I help with giving advice and stuff like that, where guys that are doing it for the first time, it's really easy to get frustrated when it doesn't go well on the first or second or third stab, right? So you in and out, and then you're losing track of your shims, and you get flustered, you get angry, and it's like there's not enough beer and pizza in the world to make this go right. And you're like, this sucks. I don't ever want to do this again.
Right.
And if you get it wrong and you burn it up, blow it up, then you got to start all over. Now you're buying all that stuff all over again. And you, in your mind, you're already like, I went through this once and fought it, and it didn't work. Now I got to do it again or pay somebody else to do it. So then it really becomes an issue for you.
Well, it's even more expensive at that point too. And you failed, which is never a good thing.
Nobody likes that feeling.
No. All right. So if Greg's okay with this, does anybody else have, I mean, you've asked questions, but I just want to kind of open it up. Does anybody want to ask Greg any questions, or what does it mean when this happens, or whatever you got? Anybody got anything for Greg?
It's actually for Lauren. She's one of the young ladies that met us there at Moab. She was asking me, she got a Terraflex SYE and started leaking at the seal, and she's replaced had the seal replaced the second time now. It sounds like at a shop. I don't think she's doing the work, and it's leaking again. So now somebody has suggested to her to go with the JB conversions instead. And so now I guess she's got one of those on the way, but she got to also get a new drive shaft. And she was asking what I thought about it. I'm not as familiar with the JB conversion, so I thought I'd ask what you guys think about that.
So I've done pretty much all, like I've even installed in the past one. Rough Country has one for the NP231, if you can believe that. It's basically, most of those kits are the same across the board. Many of them are just repackaged, same supplier for the hard parts, as far as like the main shaft and the yoke and all of that. Seal leakage, there's some variables there. It could just be that, depending, is it leaking where the rubber's meeting the yoke seal surface, or is it leaking around the perimeter where it's pushed into the housing? And, there's a lot of variables there that could create that. But the JB, like, I don't know. As far as
the yoke, the rough yoke mess up the inside of that seal, or if it's wobbling a little bit, it'll damage the seal?
Absolutely. Yeah. If that, because there is a big roller bearing with the retaining ring that goes in the replacement tail shaft housing, the smaller housing that bolts on there where the fixed yoke sits. And if that bearing is not pushed into place correctly, or if there's something wrong with it, or if the nut isn't properly torqued and the yoke can move where it shouldn't, if it's not just turning, it's just like a pinion yoke. If it's got any kind of lateral anything that the seal's not happy with, or if the seal surface on the yoke itself was not, prepared properly, the finish on it isn't congruent to the seal. Different seals, nitrile versus Vuna versus Viton. There's different levels of what those durometers are and the temperatures that they like to work in with given types of fluids and exposure to hydrocarbons and all that stuff. So It's entirely possible it was install error that caused it to leak. As far as the difference between that one and JB's, I honestly don't feel like there's that big of a difference. I mean, from strictly a out of the box quality appearance standpoint, probably some of the nicest ones I've seen have been from Advanced Adapters.
That's what I got in mine is advanced adapters. That's what I put in mine. And I haven't had an issue at all with mine.
Well,
And-
just something being a little out of line, like what he was saying, could cause the issue. Or the if I'm still remembering this right, because I'm thinking back to my XJ, even just the drive shaft portion that goes in there. You said a SYE, but this is before I did the SYE on mine. That seal, I had problems with that seal quite often.
Yeah, an imbalanced drive shaft can cause that. A bad U-joint that's allowing the drive shaft to vibrate or move around could cause that. And you'd be surprised. It doesn't take much of something being out of spec to create those kind of leaks. So
It just dawned on me. I think that I had some imbalance issues. I don't think I had the angle set properly, which was causing vibrations.
Well, I think she's having, not to say that she couldn't do it if she wanted to. I mean, I'm not sure, but it sounds like she's having it done at a shop, and she got a brand new Tom Woods, drive shaft. So I mean, she don't have junk in there. So, like you said, I wasn't that familiar with the JB conversions. I got the advanced adapters with the, I got the Adams drive shaft. So.
This changing, if I'm remembering correctly, the seal is pretty easy to change. Maybe she should go with a different brand seal, maybe a Advanced Adapters seal, and see if the brand change makes a difference. I mean, if I remember right, it's pull the drive shaft out and pry the seal out of there and pop another one in.
Yeah, so there is no preload on those nuts for that output shaft on those fixed yokes. It's not like a pinion where you have to worry about preload shims or a crush sleeve or anything. It's just the straight torque. So it's actually not too bad if you have an impact or a wrench that can handle taking that apart. Getting the seal in and out's the easiest part. It's basically for a lot of shade tree guys, it's going to be getting the yoke in and out of there. But if you're someone that's technically capable enough to do an SYE to begin with, you've got all the stuff you need to do it. Those particular kits for anybody that's been into a transfer case like an MP231 or a 241 or any of those, it's really not that difficult. In my opinion, it's entry-level stuff for most of us. If you've never turned a wrench before, it's probably intimidating as all get out. But yeah, I would definitely be checking to make sure that bearing's doing what it's supposed to, that the yoke seal surface is correct. There's a potential that it's mismatched. It could have been a bad run of the seals that they sent out with those kits, or if they're buying bargain basement cheapy auto parts stuff like your Master Pros and your Duralast and things like that. Don't waste time on that $3 or $4 seal. Spend the $15 or $20 and get a good, Timken, National, Federal, something that's a higher quality. And that's kind of like across the board. I'm not going to put a Master Pro U-joint in my $800 drive shaft. I'm going to put a cold forged Spicer, non-greasable, because I want the strongest, best that I can get. So if you get to a point where you're cheaping out on something like a seal, then spend the extra few bucks and get something quality and make sure you put it in right.
One other quick question, since you brought it up, the shims versus the crush sleeve. When you do them, do you, unless the customer just specifically requests one or the other, what do you prefer?
For ease of install, I prefer the shim, like a crush sleeve eliminator or, shim and spacer, because once you have the preload where you want it, you don't have to mess with it again. It's super easy. The hard part for most people is getting there, because it's a lot of in and out to get that preload dialed in where it needs to be. Crush sleeves are convenient for production style work because it's, you hit it to where you get your 20 inch-pounds of rotational torque and then you quit, you're done. Now, if you're one of these guys where you're going to be taking the pinion in and out over and over again, trying to establish depth and work, contact pattern, don't put the crush sleeve in there. You use your old pinion nut, not the new one, because the pinion nut's kind of like head bolts. It's a one-time use thing. Just tighten it enough by hand to establish that 20 inch-pounds of drag on your inner outer pinion bearing without the spacer or sleeve in there. Run your patterns and make your adjustments, and then go back and put it in, followed up by the seal, and the new nut. Again, for somebody that's in a shop all day long, it's hard to justify spending all that extra time to do it that way. So I know there's a lot of guys that swear up and down for like racing purposes that they don't want a crush sleeve. The old wives' tale that I've heard is that the crush sleeve will expand with high heat and change the pinion preload. And I'm like, I'm not real sure how that's going to work, because with the yoke bolted on, properly torqued, the inner bearing's not going anywhere. So if the crush sleeve expands, well, then a solid spacer would do the same thing. So I call BS on that one. I don't think that's legit. I think crush sleeves get a bad rap because it's so easy to over tighten. If you go past it too much, like guys that are doing pinion seals in their driveway, you take the nut off the pinion yoke, you count the turns, and you're like, you put it right back there, but then you're like, well, that doesn't feel tight enough. So you give it some more. Well, now you've over preloaded your used bearings, and you're gonna hurt something. And I get a lot of those where they call me up, hey man, I changed the leaky pinion seal and now my rear end's howling at me. Yep, you overcrushed the crush sleeve and over torqued those bearings, so if it hadn't burnt up, it's fixing to. So
is it generally the rear one that gives the most problems, rather than the front one, or is it same?
Really, the only ones that give me grief on a regular basis are your clamshell IFS front ends, like your later model Toyotas, some of the newer stuff, like the new AAM 9 1/4s they're using under the late model Rams and Chevys. Those are kind of a bear to work on, and even some of those. Some of those, like the newest version of the AAM 9 1/4 under the half-ton Rams, they've laser welded the ring gear to the carrier like they did previously for a few years. So you can't re-gear them. You have to replace the whole final drive unit because the ring gears match to the pinion. And if the aftermarket hadn't cut off, unless you're going back with a factory gear set, it's actually more cost effective and easier just to swap the whole final drive unit, like on a Bronco, the late model Broncos, than it is to go in there and try to mess with all that stuff. So I normally, and this is just me, I usually 9 times out of 10, if it's a solid axle front rear, I start on the back and then I move to the front. That's just out of habit. If it's an IFS rig, no matter which brand, I start on the front because I know that's going to be the most time consuming part, and then move to the back. But difficulty wise, I don't really see a difference other than stuff gets heavy when you get into the bigger axles. So like your big AAM 11.5s, your Dana 80s, the big Sterlings, when you're trying to bench press a loaded carrier with the ring gear on there and the bearings and the shims and put all that up into the housing, at face level, that's probably the worst part, other than dirt and rust getting in your face from older rigs. So,
very good.
Are the 9 inches cheaper and easier to re-gear?
They are easier, yes.
Just because you don't have to put them in and out.
Right. So anything with a dropout third, Toyota 8-inch, Toyota 8.75, Ford 9-inch, Ford, the F10s, any of those, they are so much easier to actually set up because the dropout pinion support for changing shim depth on the pinion, you don't have to yank the yoke, you don't have to move any bearings. It's just a shim between the bearing support and the third member. And then most of them have the Fords, it's spanner nuts for the side adjusters on the carrier bearings, no shims. So setting those up is super easy. Cost wise, that all depends upon which boxes you're ticking. You can do a 9-inch for reasonable money, comparatively speaking, but it's real easy to get expensive in a hurry, depending upon what you do with it and what you upgrade it to.
Yeah.
So,
I was probably going to do a Yukon third and pinions.
Don't do Yukon. Don't do Yukon.
Thank you. I was going to ask you about Yukon.
It's just,
and I didn't want to go there initially, but I'll go there. It's the Yukon's quality control, and this is I've installed hundreds of Yukon gear sets over the years. I can tell you right now, in the last 4 to 5 years, the QC, the overall construction quality and fit and finish has gone
even on
completely
on the third member part.
On pretty much anything. I've got axle shafts that I can show you where the splines, they're supposed to be cut splines, look like they're chiseled into the shaft. I can show you that I've had stuff that was sent to me directly from Yukon, Randy's Worldwide, that the ring gear and pinion had rust and pitting on it out of the box, brand new stuff.
Whiz.
I've seen some doozies out of that brand, and I can tell you, you go back 10 years, Yukon was right up there at the top of the hill with most of the other major manufacturers. They were awesome. It has changed, unfortunately, significantly in the last few years, and pretty much, I mean, there's always going to be people that have brand loyalty based on XYZ, whatever. You've always used it, you like it. Ford guy, Chevy guy, Jeep guy, Toyota guy, whatever. Yukon's one of those ones that I have lost all faith in. Their customer service alone in the last few years has gotten to the point where if you call them up with an issue of any kind, they pretty much just don't give a shit. And I'm just being honest with you. I had to pull teeth with those people at Randy's on the last warranty issue that I had on Yukon stuff. And the only reason I ended up getting the Yukon brand was because at the time they were the only ones with the ratio available that wasn't on back order for the customer's desires. And it ended up being a complete nightmare.
Yeah,
complete. So
I knew people had problems with the ring gears and stuff, but I didn't know about the third members or anything.
I can't honestly say that I've ever seen one of their nodular thirds fail. I haven't personally witnessed that or heard anybody talk about it. But for the money, if I'm building a 9-inch, I'm going with Strange or somebody else. I'm not going with a Yukon anything for anything that I'm doing.
There you go.
Sorry.
No, it's that's good. That's good experience. I mean, that's good information for us to have. All right.
There's a lot of influencers and stuff out there that are sponsored. Okay. We all understand how that works. Those of us in and out of the industry, it's real easy to push a brand if you're not paying for it because it gets you more clicks, likes, follows, views, and folks that don't know any better. The same thing happens with tires. You guys, I'm sure, have seen it a million times. We all watched the Milestar Patagonias blow up when they first hit the market. And then what happened? Well, it's a cheap Chinese tire. No, they're made in Taiwan. They're not Chinese. But if you're expecting a tire like that to go out and handle the sharp rocks of Farmington, New Mexico, or West Coast style wheeling, again, you're asking too much. That's not a tire that's designed to do that. So, beating up on a manufacturer because you're taking a component and using it in a way that's going to ruin it, and then blaming the manufacturer is like, well, okay. I mean, you can say that about anything. I've seen RCVs break. I've seen 2.5-ton guys break axle shafts. If you've never been around when somebody's popped a 47 spline, 2-inch diameter axle shaft with a 468 cubic inch big block, you're not living. I mean, that's something else to be standing there while one of those things lets go.
I bet.
Have you ever priced any of that stuff? It is so expensive, like a lot. So,
well, that's why you promote Yukon gear, so you can afford to pay for all that stuff.
And I'm not picking on those influencers. I'm really not. I know it sounds like I am. It's one of those things. If we like the tire thing, I've seen notable influencers that were, brand XYZ so long as they were getting it. And when the next better one comes along without missing a beat, they drop that first brand and go straight to the second one. And you've got, tens of thousands of followers out here that were like, well, wait a minute.
Happened?
I thought you said that.
Yeah, you used to love me.
I went and bought Patagonias because you said they were great in Moab. And now you're saying I need Nitto case backs. Now I need stickies. Oh crap. I got to go back and get fucking red labels now. Or, people latch onto that stuff. And again, it's, do your own homework, do your own research.
Yeah, if we tell you here on the Jeep Talk Show, if we tell you here on the Jeep Talk Show the wrong stuff to get, it's just because we're stupid. It's not that we're making any money off of it, and of course we'll admit it. All right, well, we're going to wrap this up. We go about an hour, but the roundtable continues on. It starts before we record the show, and it continues on after the show. Sometimes for a couple of hours. You don't have to stick around, but often the conversation is very fun. All right, so, you can submit your own questions for the roundtable. Just go to xjtalk.com/contact to find out how. All right, everyone, that's a wrap for this week's Jeep Talk Show Roundtable. Big thank you to all of our Zoom participants. You guys make this so much fun and informative every week. And, of course, a shout-out to everyone that's watching us live. I read that on purpose. Glenn, you had to sign up, get a Zoom account to get on because we had somebody do gay porn on our roundtable about a month ago or so, and it canceled our YouTube channel. So now we're not doing YouTube Live, not yet, until we got to feel comfortable. We got to get in our safe space. But now everybody that gets onto the Zoom meeting has to have a Zoom account. So that's the reason why you had to get signed up, and I really appreciate you going through that. And that is the reason why you had to go that extra mile, so we could just kind of keep the riffraff out. All the people that like the wrong kind of ring and pinion brands. So we appreciate everybody tuning in. Hey, remember, you can join us again next Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Central Time for more Jeep Talk, random questions, and a few rapid trails. Don't forget to visit the xjtalk.com/contact to find out how you can be part of the conversation. That includes Discord, that you can join us over there and talk 24/7. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.
Broadcasting since 2010.
You're my friend. You're my new friend.